What's up, guys? Just felt cool to make another video again, really. Um, yeah, so I've been sort of sat indoors for the past 4 hours, sort of exploring some childhood traumas. Kind of been feeling really disconnected from life at the moment. Don't really see the point in doing anything, really. I've been on this sort of spiritual journey now for the past like 6 or 7 years, since I was like 19, 18, 19. Um, just trying to figure it all out, trying to make sense of it all, sort of thing. And I've just sort of come to realize that, like, me personally, it's not that I can't accept responsibility for everything, but over my journey, I have always sort of, I wouldn't want to say relied on other people, but like I've never really been able to heed a direction myself because there's been a lot of disconnect in myself, a lack of trust within myself. Um, Not too sure where that stemmed from, but me being able to make decisions for myself, I've always sought help from other people. And with situations that are going on in my life at the moment, I realise there is no one to go to, you know. So I'm kind of a bit stuck. So I've been looking into like religion, Christianity, those sorts of things, like God, uh, understanding those sorts of things. But I believe what I'm truly experiencing is something called the dark night of the soul. So if you guys have ever experienced that, it's essentially where everything, all sense of safety, all sense of meaning, all sense of purpose in life is just stripped away from you. For some people, this could mean physically losing family members. You could lose your job, your girlfriend, anything that gives you any sense of safety. All your fears will be at the forefront of your mind. Everything will be at the forefront of your mind. Your deepest and darkest secrets, everything that has ever bothered you in life, anything that's ever even remotely concerned you in life will be at the forefront of your mind, and it will be like your whole world, your whole reality is just collapsing around you. Um, but I'm gonna tell you why that's a good thing. One, you're now seeing everything clearly. You can quite clearly see the patterns of your mind. You can see what's been holding you back. You might not necessarily be able to see where it stemmed from, but you can see that is a fear, that is a blockage, that is something that needs dealing with, you know. I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to give you guys the story as my story progresses, you know. So, two, you're now able to build from a stable foundation, and from my experience, I ran away from my darkness because I didn't really know how to deal with it the first time round 6 years ago when I first spiritually awakened. A lot of stuff was really new to me. It didn't really make sense. I'm still at a point now where I still don't know what to believe, but I definitely know that, you know, I am the focal point of my reality, if that makes sense. In the most egoless way possible, I am the focus. I am the center point of my reality. And from what I've come to realize over the past half an hour, really, I'm just thinking, um, but just like aspects of like light and darkness. Like darkness is just what we call Satan, and the light is what we call God. But they're just aspects of ourselves that we either like or dislike. You know, things that we consider good and bad. They're just perceptions of ourselves, if that makes sense. So the bad we call Satan, the intrusive thoughts, the violent thoughts, the sexual desires, all of the lustful thoughts, the thoughts on wanting to do harm, the anger, the jealousy, the greed, all of these different traits that we consider bad. That's what we call Satan, and everything else like clarity, love, light, compassion, empathy, all of those sorts of things we call light and we call God, right? So here's why I'm kind of conflicted with Christianity, because it feels like with Christianity, it's like God seems like an asshole, to be honest. Worship me, I am the Almighty God. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like one of those. It's like some part of me is really internally conflicted with that because I have a problem with authority. I really don't like authority over my life and my decisions. Like I'm trying to be a better person. I'm trying to make better decisions in my life. So it's just I'm having a really hard time accepting Christianity. But on the flip side of that, I do understand the teachings of Jesus. Like, I'm learning about Jesus of Nazareth, and I'm trying to sort of embody a better version of myself, make better decisions. So for me personally, I'm really working on lust at the moment because I see how much it's been controlling my life. I see that anytime I've ever experienced any kind of conflict or any kind of uncomfortable feeling, I've always just jumped straight to masturbation because I know orgasm will give me a great feeling of relief. So I've always kind of struggled with that, but I've only kind of really come to the realization of the past like month or so that that's kind of where I've been at in my life, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's something I'm personally conquering on my own. And obviously I'm looking into the benefits of semen retention, stuff like that. But overall, at the minute I'm not in work, work's just like dried up. Yeah. Thought I had a spot, but it's me beard. Work's basically dried up at the minute, so I'm not really going to work at the moment. So I'm just literally I've been off work for like 3 weeks now, just been sat in my house, going to the gym, just pondering over life, really trying to wrap my head around these circumstances that I'm in. And it's kind of like plunged me into darkness again, if that makes sense, because it's stripped away my meaning of life. And I've kind of realized that I really based my life's purpose off of following other people, but I think that maybe it's time to become a leader and not a follower and sort of pave the way. But because I've never been in this position before, obviously me making videos is me trying to lead through my own experience, but not like be like, hey, follow me, blah, 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 I am the light, blah, blah. I'm not trying to be that. I'm just trying to I just want people to feel understood, because when you're going through this sort of thing, this spiritual awakening, it's fucking rough, man. Like, people don't realize, when you first get into spirituality, you think, oh, the connectedness, everything's one, and we're all one entity, and da 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 da. But I think the real Earth experience, coming to Earth, you're here to learn about darkness, and you're here to integrate that into your life and learn about it. Because I don't think there's a single human being on this Earth that hasn't experienced great amounts of darkness. How we handle that though is the important part, and what we learn from that. I think that's true spirituality. There is seeing your own darkness and understanding how that's affected your life, and then passing that information on to others, so those cycles and those patterns are no longer repeated in one, your own life, and two, everybody else's life, that you can potentially stop that from happening, if that makes sense. So me personally, I can see how my lust and desire has been at the forefront of my mind. I've always had this image of like love has been like the main characteristic of my life. I've always had this image in my head of I'm going to find love one day, and then that's led to me having an intense amount of focus on females all the time and just completely neglecting myself. And I've just yeah, I've had a really hard time discerning what I want to get out of life, because I've always thought that it's just going to be this grand love story and everything else will just work itself out. And I realise it now that I'm kind of responsible for my own life, if that makes sense. Like, me looking up to God itself, a God, any God, for guidance. It really is just like looking up to a big future version of myself, if that makes sense, because it's just my higher self. It's my version of me that has more knowledge, which is just me in the future, essentially. Pretty much. It's just me in the future, but I don't know because I'm not there right now. So it's just difficult. This world is just trial and error. And if you fuck up, that's okay, But I think that so many people on this world are so quick to judge, so quick to misunderstand. Everybody has a different experience on this world, and it's so hard to sort of grasp that no one really knows what the fuck's going on, Nobody really knows what's happening. So, we're all just trying to be the best we can. We're all just trying to learn with what we've been given and what we have learned so far. We're all at different junctures of our development. So we need to just have a lot more empathy for people. And, we want to cultivate these light aspects of ourselves. So the empathy, compassion, and love and joy and stuff like that. But we need to have more patience for the darkness as well. We need to understand. The problem is we don't understand the darkness, and we only treat the symptoms of darkness. We only treat, when somebody gets angry, we're like, well, shut down that anger instantly, but we don't seek to understand where that anger stems from. We have therapy and stuff like that, but for me personally, like my therapy, my journey of therapy is like, it's been good, but it's also not been good, because it is just, in a sense, somebody just listening to me talk, So it's no different for me, all therapy's done is just validate how I felt, in a sense of like, I already knew what they told me, if that makes sense. So I already knew exactly what they told me. But again, in my head, because I need that validation, because of the lack of trust in my head of myself, that's all therapy was for me. I basically just paid for somebody to tell me that what I was thinking was completely fine, like it was right. So it's just one of them. Like, it's just, we just need to seek to understand the reasons why the way people are the way they are, rather than just punishing them for who they've become, or how they're acting. We need to seek the deeper meaning of that, if that makes sense. So we need to learn the darkness. We need to understand the darkness. But I've just kind of realized that I don't really know how to do that, if that makes sense. I don't really know how to accept my own darkness. I don't really know how to accept your darkness. I can try and learn and understand, but people can only really give you the information at the depth that they've met themselves. So I know myself pretty darn well. Like, I've been exploring my own life for the past 6-7 years now, and I've come into a lot of unhealthy aspects of myself, a lot of coping mechanisms. But I'm doing better. Like, I've come away from drugs and alcohol. I've come away from like unhealthy coping mechanisms. Like, I'm going to the gym, trying not to eat as shit as what I used to. Like I said, coming away from masturbation and lustful thoughts and feelings, but try not to punish myself from having them. And I think that's the issue that I have with Christianity. It's like, in my experience with it so far, it sounds like it's almost like punishing the dark aspects of yourself, even though you should be just learning to love and accept them, but move past them, if that makes sense. I just don't know, really. I'm really conflicted internally at the minute with how I should be and who I should be, if that makes sense. But I know that's entirely up to me. Nobody else gets to dictate that. So I just thought I'd, share this message, make sure everybody feels all good within themselves. But just note, especially if you're on this journey of spirituality, it is okay. There is people out there that actually understand. You're not going crazy when you think, you see a number of synchronicities, or the law of attraction was a massive one for me. It was like, all of a sudden I became aware that, my energy is the energy that I put out is the energy that I get back. And I wasn't putting out good energy because I wasn't feeling good energy. So then ultimately it led me to spiral into thinking that my thoughts were going to manifest. And it was a bad day. It was a bad day, that's for sure. It was a bad year. It was a very bad year. But, I kind of let that go and almost sort of slipped back into my old way of being with a new perspective, if that made sense. So it was like, I understood all of that was sort of what was happening, but I kind of just pushed it away, if that made sense, because it was too much to handle, that my thoughts and my whole brain was creating my experience. But, in some sense, it was just another avoidance of responsibility for my own world and my own reality, because I didn't want to take responsibility for all that. And I think that's exactly what it is with Christianity as well. It's kind of like, in some senses, like, Christianity, for me personally, can be, especially with somebody that struggles with lack of self-trust, it can be like, oh my God, I can't deal with this, you take it, blah, 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 blah. And then you just sit and paralyzed. You just don't do anything. You just sit there and don't do anything, take no action, nothing, But I think eventually, you come to realize, you have the power, you can do anything you want to do, For me personally, I've always struggled to speak how I feel because I've always been shut down, So I think that developed a lack of self-trust quite badly. And when I was in school and stuff, like, I used to have friends that used to not value my opinion, or whenever I'd say anything, my opinion was basically just null and void. So again, I lacked I lacked the ability to trust myself, and I kind of relied on others for guidance, if that makes sense. So I guess in a way, like you can say that if you have lack of self-trust, it is genuinely purely because you have been shut down so much in your life, and the coping mechanism was just to follow others so you won't get shut down. I don't know. It's all psychology, I guess. But at the same time, I think that there is deeper meaning behind all of this. Um, and this is just like one big play of life. We're all learning and experiencing stuff, you know. In the grand scheme of things, the whole earth is a school. We're all learning. But ultimately, I think we do have to love everything. We have to love and accept, see it from the eyes of compassion, see it from the eyes of empathy, rather than seeking to destroy what we don't want to exist. But learning to understand why it exists to begin with, that's the fucking key, my guys. That is the key. Anyway, hope you all have a great day. I've been rambling on for quite some time now, and I need to go to the gym. So I'll leave you be. Peace.